Just a year ago, a mysterious former OpenAI employee was warning about the darkest scenarios for our AI future. Now, even the creators themselves, including Sam Altman, are speaking out openly. It made me slam on the brakes to look back at what's happened in just 1 year and what's already starting to become reality. Because if even a fraction of these predictions turns out to be true, we're heading into what might be the most turbulent, intense, and unpredictable era humanity has ever faced. No matter how old you are, there's a good chance that by the end of this decade, we'll all find ourselves right in the eye of the storm. So let's break down what exactly these AI pioneers are forecasting, and why the near future might be far more thrilling and terrifying than we've ever imagined. Back in 2005, futurist Ray Kurzweil published his book, The Singularity is Near, predicting a time when humans would transcend biology. 2 decades later, many of his bold forecasts have already come true with striking accuracy. Think about it. Keyboard-free human-computer interaction, smart gadgets everywhere, breakthroughs in medical nanotech, digital immortality, and avatars. But his most relevant prediction for today? That AI would reach human-level intelligence and pass the Turing test, carrying on a conversation so naturally, it would be hard to tell machine from person. Just recently, GPT-4.5 officially cleared the classic 3-party Turing test, fooling judges into thinking it was human 70% of the time. Of course, not all of Kurzweil's predictions have panned out. Some remain controversial, and others may well prove wrong. His forecast of a technological singularity by 2045 is still hanging in the balance. After all, we haven't hit true AGI yet. By the way, we broke down the different levels of AI in simple terms in one of our previous videos. Check it out if you missed it. About a year ago, something unexpected happened. A man named Leopold Aschenbrenner published an extensive essay on where AI is heading. Normally, it might have gone unnoticed if it hadn't come from a former employee of OpenAI. This wasn't some leak of corporate secrets. It was all based on public data and his own projections. But coming from someone who had been at the very heart of OpenAI, it landed differently. The essay itself is enormous, 165 pages. So we'll skip the technical and political fine print and pull out only the most intriguing points. They show how Leopold envisioned the near future of technology and how it looks a year later. The first part focused on the looming crisis in the US due to the AI race. In just 1 year, conversations in Silicon Valley shifted dramatically, from data centers for AI costing $10 billion to now discussing projects worth $100 billion, even $1 trillion. Every 6 months, another zero gets added to these plans. We're talking about massive GPU farms running day and night, training and operating AI. Behind the scenes, there's a brutal fight. For every energy contract that can still be locked in this decade, for every high-voltage transformer left on the global market, by the late 2020, power production in the US is expected to rise by dozens of percentage points. Hundreds of millions of GPUs will be lighting up the grid. If we're lucky, the US will enter a full-blown race with the Chinese Communist Party, a sprint for supremacy, tech versus tech. If not, it could slide into total war. Leopold then argues that by 2027, we'll likely reach AGI, systems that can perform virtually any cognitive task a remote human worker does today. Programmers, marketers, content creators, strategists, many of these roles could be automated by software agents that not only answer questions, but also independently complete complex, weeks-long projects. From there, he saw an almost inevitable path to superintelligence. AI wouldn't just think faster, but better, solving scientific problems human researchers might otherwise wrestle with fruitlessly for decades. According to his forecast, by the end of this decade, we could be living through the most unstable, high-risk period in human history. Because when you have billions of AI agents working at superhuman speed and scale, it's no longer just about making apps faster or diagnosing diseases quicker. It becomes a geopolitical arms race. Who controls this power? Who owns the energy, the compute, the levers to influence every other nation? Leopold points out 3 main lines of future change: AI-run factories, a leap in medicine, and military dominance. At first, factories will still have people, but they'll be managed by AI. Soon after, people will be entirely replaced by armies of robots. This will drive an industrial boom, accelerate the production of goods and research, and with that, economic growth. AI will speed up the development of new drugs and tech, bringing treatments for today's incurable diseases to market much faster. Armies of drones and robots will be just the beginning. AI could develop weapons we can't even imagine today. Altogether, this is what he calls the intelligence explosion, potentially making the coming years the most volatile of this century. And crucially, his predictions aren't about some far-off future. He is talking about before 2030, just 3-5 years away. Seems unthinkable, but wait. In the third part, Leopold describes how investment in AI is skyrocketing to unprecedented levels. By the end of the decade, the US will boost power generation by at least 10% just to feed these giant data centers. Zuckerberg has already bought 350,000 NVIDIA H100s. Amazon is building a data campus next to a nuclear plant with 1 gigawatt of capacity. Kuwait is raising a cluster at 1 gigawatt and 1.4 million GPUs. Rumor has it Microsoft and OpenAI are prepping a project as costly as the ISS, $100 billion, launching in 2028. The race now includes not only the US and China, but also Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Gulf states, all chasing virtual workers who could replace millions of white-collar jobs at a fraction of today's payroll costs. By 2027, investment in AI will hit $1 trillion annually, one of the biggest capital waves in history, even outpacing the Manhattan Project or Apollo program relative to GDP. For context, between 1996 and 2001, telecoms poured nearly $1 trillion, in today's terms, into the internet, infrastructure we still run on. But the main bottleneck isn't chips, it's power. Over the past 10 years, US electricity generation has grown by only 5%. Yet a single 100 gigawatt data center could consume up to 20% of today's US output. The world is already entering a fight for electricity to fuel AI, and this is just the start. He then turns to the risks that come with this race. First, even the best safety measures could be pointless if rogue states simply steal AI models and use them without restrictions. Second, by the decade's end, we'll have billions of AI agents smarter than humans. Their behavior will be so complex and creative that we'll be like first graders among PhDs, unable to truly control what they're doing. This is the heart of the alignment problem. How do you govern systems that are smarter than us? If a super AI writes millions of lines of code in a language it invented, a human wouldn't be able to check if there are threats. Meaning the intelligence explosion could quickly spiral out of control. One slip, and we're talking disasters on the scale of nuclear plant meltdowns or collapsed transport systems. Third, he warns, the leading AI labs are spending far fewer resources on safety than they should. Most aren't prepared to make costly trade-offs to build truly secure systems. We're basically counting on luck. And finally, power. A super-intelligent AI in a dictator's hands could lead to total surveillance, control by millions of AI-driven police robots, and nearly perfect lie detection. That would lock the political system tight. Only those with access to AI could rule, and no one else could ever replace them. The fourth part of his essay is called The Path to Project A. By Project A, Leopold means nothing less than a new Manhattan Project, a program on the scale of building the atomic bomb. But this time for AGI. He draws a parallel with early 2020. In February and March, almost no one grasped how quickly things could escalate. Yet within weeks, the entire country was shutting down. AI will be similar. Most people either don't notice the change or brush it off as hype, until the first real shock. According to him, by 2025 to 2026, we'll see the next jolt. AI will earn tech giants over $100 billion annually and outperform PhDs at routine problem solving. By 2028, we'll see $100 billion clusters and full-scale virtual employees handling code and intellectual work. And by around 2027, the mood in Washington will darken. The question, do we need our own Manhattan Project for AGI, will echo through the Pentagon and Congress, louder and louder. After that, it only accelerates. By 2030, the US, he believes, will have built $1 trillion data center for AGI, moved hundreds of top researchers to a secure location, and found its entire arsenal obsolete. At that point, AGI development would shift from commercial hands into the tight grip of national security, with contracts like Lockheed and Boeing, or even closer. In the end, AGI would look more like nuclear tech than the internet. Dual use, but primarily military. By the close of the decade, the world will be utterly transformed. Whoever first gains control over AI will effectively lead civilization. He says, right now, there may only be a few hundred people on Earth who truly grasp how wild things are about to get. 2023 was the year AI woke up. Behind the scenes, the most explosive growth in technical capital in history has already begun. Now, let's look at what from his predictions already seems to be unfolding before our eyes. Massive AI data centers are indeed being built worldwide. Multi-billion-dollar energy contracts are already signed. Leading companies are buying up hundreds of thousands of GPUs. Firms like Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta are inking deals tied to nuclear power. The scramble for GPUs is so intense it's reshaping entire energy grids. Governments and militaries are signing contracts with AI companies. We see AI becoming indispensable, from medicine and programming to national security. And we see politicians discussing it more and more in the very rooms where nuclear deterrence was once debated. If Leopold's charts are right, the next few years won't just be about smarter chatbots. They'll be the start of something much bigger, and possibly about much far harder to control. The world is already on the trajectory he described. It's just that not everyone has realized it yet, but soon, it seems, they will. Not long after Aschenbrenner's essay, two of the most influential figures in AI stepped forward with their own visions. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and Dario Amodei, founder of Anthropic, and once OpenAI's VP of Research. Together, these are arguably the two people most responsible for accelerating the AI boom we're living through right now. Let me quickly start by explaining who Sam Altman is, for those who might not know. Right now, he's the founder and CEO of OpenAI, the company that was started in 2015. OpenAI is the team behind, for example, ChatGPT, the most well-known and advanced AI chatbot. Before that, he also ran YC and served as president of Y Combinator, a major startup accelerator that invests in all kinds of young companies. In 2024, Sam Altman published an essay called The Intelligence Age, where he laid out his vision of AI's future, predicting the arrival of superintelligence within just 5 to 11 years. Then, in 2025, he followed up with a new piece titled The Gentle Singularity. This time, Altman offered a more tech-realist perspective on where digital reality stands today, and where AI might be heading in the near future. The tone of his essay is almost carefree, hopeful, and surprisingly gentle for someone talking about technologies that could literally reshape civilization. Altman predicted that within the next couple of decades, life could start to look like pure science fiction to our grandparents. Each of us might have a personal team of AI experts, virtual doctors, architects, teachers, all collaborating to build whatever we can imagine. He saw this as unlocking mass flourishing, a world where problems like disease, poverty, or even climate change might finally become solvable. Though he did note one very real risk. If computing remains scarce and expensive, powerful AI could become just another tool for the rich, or even a trigger for outright conflict over resources. By 2025, Sam Altman's tone had shifted, or maybe just deepened. In a new blog post, he doubled down on the idea that we're heading into what he calls the Age of Intelligence, a phase of human history as big as the Industrial Revolution, maybe bigger. Humanity is inching closer to building a digital superintelligence. And yet, at least for now, robots aren't strolling down our streets. Most of us don't spend our days chatting with personal AI sidekicks. People still die from diseases. We can't casually hop on a spaceship, and the universe is still packed with mysteries. But even so, we've just created systems that are, in many ways, already smarter than humans. Systems that dramatically boost the productivity of anyone using them. The hardest part, the improbable breakthrough, is behind us. The scientific leaps that led to things like GPT-3 and GPT-4 were tough, but they opened massive new frontiers that promise to benefit the world in countless ways. The biggest jump in quality of life, though, might come from speeding up science itself, from unlocking a new era of discovery and productivity. Altman points out, progress in science is what really drives overall human progress. It's thrilling to think how much more we could achieve. In a deep sense, ChatGPT is already more powerful than any single person who's ever lived. Hundreds of millions rely on it daily, for ever more important tasks. A small improvement in its capabilities could have a huge positive impact, but a tiny flaw multiplied across hundreds of millions of users could also do real harm. He sees 2025 as the year of AI agents, tools that can handle real cognitive work. Writing code will never be the same again. By 2026, we might see systems making brand new scientific discoveries. And by 2027, perhaps robots capable of reliably doing jobs in the physical world. More people will be able to create software and art, and demand for these things will explode. Experts who embrace these tools will still be vastly more productive than newcomers. Overall, by 2030, a single person could accomplish far more than the same person could in 2020. That's the staggering shift underway. In the most important ways, people will learn how to harness this. Sure, life in the 2030s may look pretty familiar on the surface. We'll still love our families, express creativity, play games. But in other ways, equally meaningful, the 2030s might be radically unlike anything that's come before. We don't yet know how far we can push past the boundaries of human intelligence, but we're about to find out. By then, intelligence and energy, the very ideas and power to execute them, could be effectively unlimited. For most of history, these were our biggest bottlenecks. If we have abundant brains and energy and good governance over both, then theoretically, anything becomes possible. We're already living alongside astonishing digital minds. Once the initial shock passed, most of us just adapted. We went from marveling that AI could write a pretty paragraph to expecting it to draft entire novels. From being amazed it could diagnose a disease to anticipating it might find the cure. From writing tiny scripts to launching entire companies. That's how the singularity creeps in. Miracles become ordinary, then standard. Altman described a future of almost limitless prosperity. AI cracking the toughest scientific problems, opening the door to climate breakthroughs. He suggested we're only a few thousand days away from building systems so advanced they'll start designing even more powerful systems themselves. A loop that could accelerate far beyond anything we've ever managed on our own. The cost of intelligence could theoretically drop to just the cost of electricity. People often ask how much energy a ChatGPT query takes. On average, it's about 0.34 watt-hours, like running an oven for a second, or a small LED bulb for a couple of minutes. Tech progress is going to keep accelerating, and people, as always, will adapt astonishingly well. Yes, entire categories of jobs will vanish, but the world will get so much wealthier that we might genuinely explore brand new ideas for policy and how society works. If history is a guide, we'll quickly invent new things to pursue, new things to want, and master new tools just as fast. The Industrial Revolution wiped out old jobs, but people found new ones. Expectations will rise, but so will opportunities, and we'll all enjoy far better things. We humans have one deep, lasting advantage. We care about other humans, about what they feel and think, and we barely care at all about machines. A peasant 1,000 years ago might look at our modern jobs and dismiss them as fake, just frivolous distractions, even though we have plenty of food and luxuries. We'll probably view future professions the same way, and yet they'll be hugely meaningful for those living them. The pace of new wonders will be staggering, from breakthroughs in materials science to brain-computer interfaces. Some will choose to live much as we do now. Others might decide to connect directly. Ahead lie serious challenges along with huge opportunities. We have to solve both the technical and social safety questions. Then it's critical to spread access to superintelligence as widely as possible. Altman also came back to a hard constraint, one that's becoming more obvious by the month. This kind of intelligence takes enormous compute power, which means mountains of chips, which means rivers of energy. Without that infrastructure, he warned, AI risks turning into a scarce resource, one that only the richest countries or corporations control. As Altman wraps it up, he notes, all of us, the entire industry, not just OpenAI, are building a brain for the whole world. It'll be deeply personal, tailored, and empowering. The only real limit will be the number of good ideas we have. For a long time, startup folks laughed at people who just had ideas but no team to build them. Looks like their time has finally come. Dario Amodei released an essay of his own, longer, more technical, and in many ways, more grounded. Dario Amodei is one of the leading AI experts. He was previously the VP of Research at OpenAI. Before that, he worked at Google and was a researcher at Google Brain, exploring topics at the intersection of neurobiology and AI. Later, he founded Anthropic, which is now the second most important company in the AI field with a strong focus on AI safety and ethics. In general, Amodei is known as one of the few people actively trying to make the future of AI safe and controllable. His essay, Machines of Loving Grace: How AI Could Transform the World for the Better, is actually more interesting than Sam's, because it's more detailed and offers far more reasoning and arguments. Dario immediately points out that many see him as a pessimist simply because he talks so much about the risks. But it's actually the opposite. He believes these risks are the only thing standing between us and an incredibly bright future. He's convinced people dramatically underestimate how radical the benefits of AI could be, just as they downplay the scale of the dangers. In his writing, he lays out, for the first time, what the world might look like if everything goes right. He also sees it as dangerous when talk about AI slips into preachy manifestos, cult-like missions, or cheesy sci-fi. In his view, we don't need fantasies. We need a clear-eyed, inspiring picture of the future. Fear might motivate us for a while, but it doesn't last. What we really need is hope. Dario highlights 5 areas where AI could most powerfully improve human life: biology and health, the brain and consciousness, economics and poverty, governance and peace and work itself, along with how we find meaning in it. Dario first defines what he means by powerful AI, roughly the level that could start reshaping society within 5 to 10 years. He admits that many people doubt we'll see such AI anytime soon, or ever, but he assumes it will happen relatively soon. So what would this AI be? In Dario's scenario, it's a system smarter than a Nobel laureate across most fields: biology, programming, math, engineering, writing. It can prove unsolved theorems, write brilliant novels, build complex code bases from scratch. It also has all the interfaces a human has online: text, audio, video, mouse, keyboard, plus the internet. And it can autonomously handle multi-day or multi-week tasks like a highly competent employee. It doesn't have a physical body, but it can operate robots or lab equipment remotely. Millions of copies could run in parallel thanks to enormous data centers, completing tasks 10 to 100 times faster than humans, though still limited by physical bottlenecks like lab experiments or hardware manufacturing. He breaks down how progress might actually unfold. Unlike sci-fi fantasies of instant transformation, Dario argues we'll see a chaotic mix, some breakthroughs slowed by real-world constraints, others accelerating wildly. For example, biology could race ahead. He predicts that with AI's help, we might compress 50 to 100 years of biomedical progress into just 5 to 10, curing most infectious diseases, dramatically reducing cancer mortality, tackling genetic disorders, even doubling human lifespan. Then there's neuroscience and mental health. Dario believes the same compressed century could apply here too. AI could drive advances in drugs, genetic therapies, brain stimulation, and behavioral tools, potentially curing or vastly improving treatment for conditions like depression, PTSD, schizophrenia, or addiction. Alright, so that's roughly how Dario imagines it. The outside world itself might not change dramatically, but the way people experience that world, it could become far more humane, comfortable, and full of chances for self-discovery. Now, can AI actually solve poverty and inequality? That's where things get a lot more uncertain. Sure, Dario thinks AI will probably invent groundbreaking new tech, but economics? That's a different beast altogether. It's messy, packed with human constraints and paradoxes. He even points out it's unlikely AI will ever crack the famous problem of socialist calculation. And let's be honest, no government is going to hand over their economic policy to a machine, even if it could outperform human leaders. Meanwhile, corruption is still rampant in many developing countries. It's a vicious cycle. Poverty feeds corruption. Corruption deepens poverty. But Dario still finds reasons for hope. History is full of nations that climbed from poverty to prosperity. It proves that intelligence, artificial or not, can pay massive dividends. So maybe AI will help break that cycle too. When it comes to climate change, it's clear developing regions will suffer the most. Yet AI could absolutely make a difference. From carbon removal to affordable green energy to lab-grown meat that reduces our dependency on carbon-heavy agriculture. Of course, technology alone isn't enough. Social factors matter too. Will access to healthcare and life extension actually be fair? Or will mind-enhancing drugs and radical anti-aging remain toys for the ultra-rich? Even if we do conquer disease, poverty, and inequality, people will still pose a threat to each other. AI could just as easily empower dictators as it could the so-called good guys. Propaganda and surveillance might become frighteningly effective. It all depends on who's holding the reins. That's why Dario believes it's absolutely critical for democratic nations to lead the race for the most powerful AI. Authoritarian AI is a nightmare scenario. Democracies have to step up, stop that, and protect human rights around the globe. Then what? Where do people find meaning if a machine is doing everything for them? It's a deeper question than economics. Hunter-gatherers might have thought life was meaningless without the hunt and the rituals tied to it. Our modern, tech-driven world would have seemed empty and terrifying to them. Maybe we're making the same mistake, in reverse. Because meaning usually comes from human relationships, not from economic productivity. And yeah, people need to feel like they're doing something hard, something that matters. Even if it's a project that takes years, a startup, a PhD, or chasing that dream of becoming a Hollywood actor. The economics of it all, though, are trickier. Even if people hang on to some comparative advantage over the next few decades, AI might eventually make labor so cheap and efficient that old systems collapse. Then we'll have to figure it all out again. How should the economy even work? Maybe it'll be universal basic income. Maybe ultra-rich AI companies will end up distributing resources because the overall economic pie will be enormous. Or maybe people will still be needed, just not in the ways economists currently imagine. And if all goes well, then in 5 to 10 years after truly powerful AI emerges, the world could be radically better than it is today. Most diseases wiped out, billions lifted out of poverty, human rights standards raised everywhere. Those who live to see it will be stunned by how profoundly it changes them. Yeah, to some it might sound like naive fantasy, but there's something almost blindingly obvious about it. Like if you honestly try to picture a good future, you still end up somewhere around this vision. And that's why, as Dario says, it's a future worth fighting for. Back then, in his first Age of Intelligence piece, Altman sounded almost casually optimistic. He talked about personal AI teams for everyone, economic booms, and the next generation growing up surrounded by genius-level digital assistants, with barely a nod to the risks. Amodei, for his part, already focused on very real constraints. Even in 2024, he highlighted how biology, physics, and sheer human systems would slow down the rollout of advanced breakthroughs met his eyes. But he still laid out a horizon where AI could outthink our brightest minds by 2027 and turn medicine, engineering, and governance upside down. Fast forward just a year or so and you can feel the mood tightening. Altman's latest essays still promise astonishing prosperity, but now they circle back again and again to infrastructure, scarcity, and geopolitical competition. Who controls the chips? Who controls the power? He frames it not just as a tech story, but as the backbone of future economies, and even national survival. It's like watching the optimism of 2024 run headlong into the logistical and political reality of 2025. Taken together, Aschenbrenner's urgent warnings, Amodei's measured optimism, and Altman's soaring confidence all point to the same conclusion. We're not talking about the distant future anymore. If these forecasts hold even halfway true, we're heading into an era unlike anything our species has ever navigated. Massive opportunity, massive risk, and for the first time, maybe, the intelligence shaping the next century won't just be ours. So what does all this mean for you? Have you ever stopped to wonder what you'll end up doing in this strange new world? Leave a comment down below and subscribe. The future may be coming fast, but together we can choose how to step into it.